something called the quadratic formula. So you're basically going to use this when when you don't have a product or sum that works. Okay. So if you're struggling to find two numbers that multiply to a specific one and add up to a specific one, and you can't find any, this is where you use the quadratic formula. Have you guys done this before?
No, I've heard of it.
Have you seen it?
I've heard it.
Okay.
I've heard it, don't remember it.
So this is when you can't factor using sum or product. This is the only time you're going to use it.
I never did summer product.
It can be annoying or easy because it's annoying because you have to substitute everything into like that big equation. It's easy because you don't have to do sum and product. So the solutions of a quadratic equation are the values of the variable that make the equation true. So these are the zeros or the x-intercepts. So a quadratic equation must be expressed in standard form. So ax squared plus bx plus c. That's what standard form is. So the quadratic formula is just x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. You don't have to memorize it. I'll give it to you. It's fine. I just know it because I've said it like 1,000 times already, so it just comes naturally. So all that means is this. You guys are probably like, what is A, what is B, what is C? So when we have our quadratic function, so say we have 2x squared plus 3x minus 8. So we're just looking at the numbers. You're not looking at the variables. We're just looking at the numbers. So who can tell me what A is going to be? Olivia? So A is 2. So the number in front of x squared is your A. My B is going to be the number in front of x. So 3 is B. And my C is going to be the last number. So it's going to be negative 8. So that's my C. And all you're doing is basically plugging in those numbers into the quadratic formula. That's it. Yeah, you forget about them.
So we put in like x equals.
We'll do one together.
Keep the signs the same, or will we switch
You
them?
keep the signs.
Like how they were in the equation, or how they were in the.
How they were in the equation, you keep the signs. So we're gonna do one together. So we're gonna do 2x squared minus 5x is equal to 1. Before I start the quadratic equation, what do I have to move over? The 1. So it's gonna be 2x squared minus 5x minus 1 is equal to 0. So what I want you to do first is I want you to identify what your A, B, and C is. So what's A, what's B, and what's C? Read up.
So 2 is A, negative 5 is B,
Mhm.
negative 1 is C.
Perfect. So I'm going to write down my quadratic formula. X is equal to negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC divided by 2A. So we're going to plug in negative 5 for B. So I'm going to have negative times negative 5 plus or minus B squared, which is negative 5 squared, minus 4 times A, which is 2, times C, which is negative 1, all divided by 2 times A, and we know A is 2. So you're just subbing in stuff into that formula.
Okay.
There's no other way to explain it besides plugging it into the formula. What's the plus or minus mean? Because when you have a number, so basically, because 3 squared gives you positive 9, right? Negative 3 squared also gives you positive 9. So that's why you have that plus and minus at the bottom, or beside after the B. Okay, so let's try to simplify this. When I have two negatives beside each other like this, what does it become? Positive. So I get positive 5 plus or minus. What's negative 5 to the power of 2? Okay. Now what's negative 4 times 2 times negative 1? Someone said it. Plus 8. And what's 2 times 2? 4.
Okay. Could you go over that again one more time?
Yeah.
So we solved the thing that was like the base chunk, the
Mhm.
red square
Yep.
first, right? So we simplified it.
Well, we did our power first. So we did negative 5 to the power of 2 first. And then we did negative 4 times 2 times negative 1. And that gave me plus 8.
Okay, and we keep the square root.
Yep, you keep the square root.
Okay, so you do 5 to the power of 2, and then you did the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. And then you also did the bottom.
The bottom, 2 times 2.
Got
So now what we're going to do next before we find our roots is you are going to tell me what 25 plus 8 is going to be, which is what? Plus or minus the square root of 33 divided by 4. So your x-intercepts, how many x-intercepts do we usually have in a parabola? 2. So here we're going to have 2 answers. So our first x-intercept, so you guys notice how we have that plus and minus here? So our first x-intercept is going to be 5 minus the square root of 33 divided by 4. My second x-intercept is going to be what? 5 plus the square root of 33 divided by 4. And all you're going to do is give me a decimal answer. That's it. So can someone tell me what 5 minus the square root of 33 is and divide that by 4? And what would it give me? To the nearest,
Sorry.
so to the first decimal.
So we. How did you get like the minus side and the plus over there?
Do you notice in this circle here how I have plus and minus?
Oh,
That's why.
I got it. Wait, how did you get a plus and a minus?
Because the quadratic formula has the plus and minus there. You have to do both.
So this solves for
X-intercepts, yeah.
Okay, so then you do x to the power of 1 or x has 1?
Well, that's just the first. So x1 means the first x-intercept. x2 means the second
Okay, so
x-intercept.
now we kind of separate them to make them the different
Yep.
x-intercepts, and then we solve
Yep.
one with positive, one with negative.
Yep. So what's the first one to 2 decimal places? Sorry.
Negative 0.18.
Okay. And Cynthia, what's the plus one?
I don't know if this is right, but it's 6.44. I don't know how to do that.
So you do the top part first. So do 5 plus the square root of 33, press equals, and then divide it all by 4.
So we find the square root of 33.
Yep.
Divided by 4.
Sarah?
I got 2.68.
Yep, 2.68.
I still keep getting the same answer. So when we got round our answers,
Pardon?
would we need to round them or no?
I'll tell you how many decimal places to round to. So that's the quadratic formula. That's it. No, I'm joking. There's a couple more examples.
Okay, and now we solve. Sorry, I'm a step behind. Hold on.
The whole number. You want to see me do it?
So we find first we find the square root of 33, correct? And then you do whatever you get from the square root of 33, then minus by 5, and then divide by 5.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes?
I know.
Yes, Cynthia? You had your hand up or no? Oh, okay.
Oh.
That's fine. All right, so try doing the next one on your own. I'll set it up for you first. So what's A, what's B, and what's C? So what's A?
I got that one.
1. What's B? And what's C? Okay. So set it up on your own and try to see what you get.
Wait. I'm proud of myself.
So take 2 minutes to try to do this one on your own. And I'll come around and check to see if you're Fine. So we have b as negative 30. So it's going to be negative times negative 30 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is negative 30 to the power of 2, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 225, all divided by 2a, which is 2 times 1. So same idea. These two negatives, when they're multiplied by each other, give me a positive. So I got 30 plus or minus negative 30 squared is 900. Because when you do negative 30 to the power of 2, it should give you 900.
Oh, wait, you did negative 30. Oh, I did the wrong thing. Okay, my bad.
And then you're going to do the negative 4 times 1 times 225. And that gives you negative 900. So it's 900 minus 900 divided by 2. So my square root is just going to be 0 divided by 2. So my first x-intercept, so the square root of 0 is what? 0. So my first x-intercept is going to be 30 minus 0 divided by 2. And my second one is going to be 30 plus 0 divided by 2. And both are going to give me 15. So I have an x-intercept at 15. So when you have your x-intercepts the same, your trinomial is considered to be a perfect square trinomial. So if your x-intercepts are the same, you have a perfect square trinomial.
What if we put like 30 plus the square root?
That's fine.
Wait, if I'm correct, the square root of 0
Square root of 0 is 0.
it's just taking me a little.
Oh.
No.
It's fine. So for those of you who started doing C, what did you notice about the square root? So when that square root part is negative, you have no x-intercepts at all. So A is equal to 3, B is equal to 2, and C is equal to 15. So I can kind of cheat in order to figure out if I do have any x-intercepts. And the way I can check that is by focusing on the square root guy. So let's figure that out. So my square root is going to tell me if I'm going to have any x-intercepts or not. So we have, let's say we just have b squared minus 4ac. We're going to focus on that. My b is 2. So I'm going to have 2 squared minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is 15. So what's 2 to the power of 2? 4. What's negative 4 times 3 times 15? Minus 180? So my square root is going to be what? Can I ever take a square root of a negative number? No. So when my square root is negative, there are no x-intercepts.
So if there's a negative square root, there's no.
Yeah, so you really don't have to do the whole quadratic formula. That's why I said you can kind of cheat, because if you would have done the whole thing, you would have gotten a negative square root, and then you wrote the rest of the stuff for no reason.
And it would have just been a lot of extra work.
Yep. So because my square root is negative, there are no x-intercepts. What was the square root of b?
How do we know that it's a negative square root? We have to do all that stuff.
Yeah, you would have to just do the b squared minus 4ac.
Okay.
So what was
Can
this?
we do that first and then figure out whether it's negative?
Yeah, you can do that first. So what was the square root for our question in b? 0. So when my square root is 0, we have only one x-intercept. Okay, because as we noticed, both our x-intercepts are what for b? 15, right? They're the same. So when your square root is 0, you only have one x-intercept. If your square root is just a random positive number like it was in a, then you have two x-intercepts. Yep. When our square root is any positive number, we have two x-intercepts.
But if it's a negative,
We have none. And if it's 0, we only have one.
wait, what do you mean it's 0?
You see how the square root of 0 we had in number 2 or in b? So your square root in b was 0. That means you only have one x-intercept.
How come we don't divide this equation by 2?
Because, like I said, we can technically cheat. So the most important part of the quadratic equation or quadratic formula that tells us if we have any x-intercepts is the square root part. Okay? Because if we have a negative square root, my number doesn't exist and I have no x-intercepts. But if I have a positive number or 0, then I have to do the rest of it as well.
So you know not to do the dividing by 2 once you figure out that the square root is negative?
Yep. So you can forget about the rest of it.
Okay. So what would you put as your answer?
There are no x-intercepts. Okay, so we have 2 more problems and then that's pretty much it for the lesson.
Positive.
So we have example 2. We want to set up the quadratic formula for 2x plus 3 times x minus 4 times 5 times x minus 1. So what do we have to do first before I do anything? Pardon? We gotta expand, so we gotta distribute.
Quick question, for the negative, with the square root equation, how do you always keep that negative there? So like, let's say the number was a positive for b, you would put negative and then times the positive, right?
Yep. So Rita, you said we'd have to expand, right? So I have to FOIL. And same with the right side. So for the left side, what do we have when I distribute? What am I going to get? 2x squared. Continue.
2x squared
Mm-hmm.
minus 8x.
Yep.
Plus 3x.
Correct.
Minus 4.
Perfect. And what do I get on the right side? Cynthia.
5x.
Mm-hmm.
Minus 5.
Perfect. So now before I move stuff over, I'm going to do my like terms on the left side. So what are my like terms on the left side?
Negative 8 and positive 3.
Negative 8 and positive 3. So what's negative 8 plus 3x? Or negative 8x plus 3x, sorry. Okay. So what are we going to move over? Because we have 2 things on 2 different sides.
You can move over the 5x to the negative 5 because it's smaller.
Yep. So we're going to move our 5x over and our negative 5 as well. So I get 2x squared minus 5x minus 5x minus 12 plus 5 is equal to 0. So 2x squared stays by itself. What's negative 5x minus 5x?
Sorry, 10x. Oh,
Negative 10x.
So sorry. 10x.
And what's negative 12 plus 5?
-7.
Negative 7. So now I have my A, my B, and my C. So what's my A? 2. What's B?
Negative 10.
And what's C? Negative
7.
7. So I have x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So I know my b is negative 10. So it's going to be negative times negative 10 plus or minus the square root of negative 10 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, and times c, which is negative 7, divided by 2 times a, which is 2 times 2. So when I have my negatives like this together, it becomes positive. So I get 10 plus or minus. What's this? What's negative 10 to the power of 2?
100.
Okay. And then what's negative 4 times 2 times negative 7? Plus 56. And 2 times 2 is 4. So now I'm left with 10 plus or minus the square root of 156 divided by 4. So what are my two answers going to be? Ashton, what's one of them? Okay. And can someone else tell me what the other one is going to be? Jade?
Is it 10 minus?
Yep, 10 minus. Yep. So can someone tell me the answer to the first one to 2 decimal places and someone else for the second one in 2 decimal places as well?
First one I got 5.6.
Did everyone else get that?
Yes.
5.6. And what's my second one? Sarah?
I got negative 0.62.
Is that good? Negative 0.62. So those are approximately my two x-intercepts at 5.62 and at negative 0.62. So based off what you guys see, is this going to be, are we going to have a maximum or a minimum for this quadratic function? Let's see. Why? Yep. So we're going to have a minimum because the a is positive. Here we go. I'll zoom out so you can copy the rest of it. Okay, and then we have our last question, which is a word problem. So for example 3, we have a golf ball is chopped out of a sand trap along a path. It can be modeled by the function h of t is equal to 7.8 plus 22t minus 5t squared, where t is the time in seconds and h is the height in meters. We want to determine the maximum height of the ball. So what you have to do first is we're going to find our two x-intercepts, and then we have to find our axis of symmetry, and then our vertex.
So we're doing like the normal steps.
Yep, except without the sum and product, we're using the quadratic formula. So the first thing we're going to do is quad formula. So what's A, what's B, and what is C? Well, it's not written in order, right? -5. Olivia, what's B?
22.
And someone tell me what's C. Sarah kind of said it already.
7.8.
7.8. So again, my quadratic formula is x is equal to -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac.
I'm guessing you have the quadratic formula memorized.
Yeah, when you say it a billion times over and over, it gets stuck in your head. So b is going to be 22. So I'm going to have -22 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 22 squared, minus 4 times -5 times 7.8, divided by 2a, which is 2 times -5. So can someone tell me what 22 to the power of 2 is? 484. What's -4 times -5 times 78? Or 7.8, sorry. -4 times -5 times 7.8. 156.
Wait a minute, wait, I'm actually kind of.
And 2 times -5 is -10. So what's in my square root? What's 484 plus 156?
640.
640? So remember, one answer is going to be x is equal to -22 minus the square root of 640 divided by -10. And the other is going to be -22 plus the square root of 640 divided by -10. So I want you to give me it to the closest decimal place. So can someone do the first one? -22 minus the square root of 640 divided by -10.
4.72.
Let's see if everyone else got that.
I got error 1.
Shouldn't be the case.
I got that.
Error?
No.
Oh.
4.7.
4.7. Remember, the minus has to be outside your square root.
But I did, that's why I was confused. Where is it?
And what's my second x-intercept going to be?
I still keep on getting error 1.
-0.32.
Let me see your calculator.
Right now?
Yep.
Maybe I was putting it in.
So it's going to be -0.3.
Because I was putting it in differently before. I did like
Thank you. So the second thing we have to do now is find our axis of symmetry. And how do I do that? So x is equal to 4.7 plus negative 0.3, and I have to divide that by 2. So can someone tell me what my axis of symmetry is going to be? 2.2? Everyone got 2.2? And then last but not least, I find my vertex. So how am I going to find my vertex? Brooklyn?
Plug it back into
Yep, we're going to plug it back into our original equation. So I'm going to have h of t is equal to 7.8 plus 22t minus 5t squared. So now I'm going to plug in 2.24t. So can someone tell me what 22 times 2.2 is?
48.4.
48.4. Okay. And what's minus 5 times 2.2 to the power of 2?
Negative.
So negative 5 times 2.2 to the power of 2 should be higher than that,
Negative 5 times 2.2.
to the power of 2. Remember, you have to do 2.2 to the power of 2 and then multiply by negative 25. Or negative 5, sorry.
-24. Yeah.
Yep. So when you add all of that together, what do we get? Use your calculator. I'm not telling you to do it in your head.
No, I'm still on
32.
I just know my X value.
32, exactly.
Yeah.
Axis of symmetry.
So what's the maximum height then? 32 what? Yeah. Therefore, the max height is 32 meters.
I know.
Because I'm able to zoom in and zoom out and I can just adjust based. Normally it would look like this. So this is one of the harder ones because you have to do